2, 3, 4.
Be careful, and it happens in the dressing room. Like that's where the beginning of modesty is, because if you don't have modest things in your closet, you can't be modest.
I don't want to wear a two-piece bathing suit because it's like going outside with my underwear on. Why I wouldn't go outside in my underwear, so why would I go outside in a string bikini?
I like that. Look, you may not realize it, but fashions that are common among prostitutes 10 years later become mainline.
Thank you.
They are the ones who set the standard.
You know, how are you supposed to have a pure mind if you're saying the complete opposite thing by the way you dress? I really wish the girls understood that.
Yeah, I don't think that when the females, they dress immodestly, they don't realize what it causes men to do.
I think the problem is that girls don't realize the male's point of view, and they need to hear it from a guy, not just from girls, because they haven't actually had that.
It's because they're so polluted, their minds have been so polluted, that all they think about and all they want right now is a girl who's dressed immodestly.
It's just a no-win situation to dress immodestly.
Because he's only interested in one thing.
Yeah, one thing. Catholic school girls are just as bad, which is, I mean, if they were educated, maybe it would be
Never
different.
taught that. I went through Catholic school my entire life, kindergarten through 12th grade. I never heard exactly what the teachings were on modesty. So I think they fail.
Honestly, I don't believe that most females think that they're dressing immodestly. I would say that most women think that they're dressing modestly.
It might not affect them, themselves, but it affects other people, like men, because there's sins of thought, and they don't realize that because they haven't had the male's point of view in seeing someone dressed immodestly.
When the females, they dress immodestly, they don't realize what it causes men to do.
They think that we human beings are like water faucets. Now you just turn it off, turn it on. No, we're far more complicated than that.
Men are visual, and our eyes will follow lines and will fill in parts of a picture that aren't there. If you have a picture of, you know, a person's face, but it's missing an eyeball or it's missing a mouth, we'll be able to draw that in for you. And our minds automatically kind of fill in the blanks. So when you're wearing short shorts or tight shorts, we're following the lines of your legs, and although you think, well, why do they look at my rear end? My rear end's covered. But we see so much, and then we see so much here that we're filling in the blanks with our minds, not even meaning to. We're not out looking for it. Our eyes are just directed there. The same thing when woman wears a low-cut top, he's following the lines of her cleavage to this unknown space that's covered up, and then with his mind, automatically, he's not even trying, the mind just automatically tries to fill in the blanks. What goes here? What belongs here? What would be here? And how much more in tight clothing, what people don't realize is that they might think, well, I'm wearing nice pants, they're nice, yeah, they're a little tight, they're stretch pants, but for a guy, you might as well, the way a guy sees it, is that she might as well not even be wearing pants. That's just what her rear end and her legs would look like if they were painted black.
Girls don't understand how much, because they don't really understand how a guy is and works and feels and experiences things as much, because it's totally different from a girl. But guys are very visual, sensory, and girls very sentimental kind of stuff. But I don't think they realize completely how their influence is so much more powerful than most girls understand.
They've never been taught the way the man thinks. And anytime the issue's been brought up, then women will just make an excuse and say things like, It's his problem. He must be a pervert. He must be looking for sex. He must be... But it's not true. People don't realize just how serious the problem is, and I think the only people who realize it are young men out there who are really truly striving to be holy and striving to be pure, and only when you're trying to be holy and pure do you realize the stumbling blocks. But if you're falling forward down into hell, well, of course you're not going to notice all the little like rocks that you hit along the way. Well, it's only when you're trying to like walk up the hill are you going to notice all the obstacles. Any male is, and he's supposed to be physically attracted to a woman. And he's supposed to be physically attracted to her private parts. That's why they're private. Because you don't want every man, his chemical reactions start going off in his head. But the difference becomes where, what happens after that chemical reaction goes off? Does a man try to redirect his thoughts? Does he have recourse to prayer? Does he try to remind himself that this is not appropriate? But regardless, if a girl's dressed immodest, she's causing him to start a battle within himself. And it's a battle that's very easily lost.
It happens to everyone. It's not just a few people, in that it's something that'll be a lot easier if they just dress more modestly.
This one young woman wrote in. She identified herself in her mid-20s, and she said that she could go out, say, to dinner with some young man, and she could dress as provocatively as she wanted, and during the meal she could just flirt with him outrageously, and then after he was all aroused and so forth, can just walk away from him. That's his problem. Well, that is certainly not loving one's neighbor as oneself. I mean, we're supposed to be assisting one another on our way to God, not being a stumbling block for other persons. There's no appreciation, I believe, of the responsibilities we have to one another.
It's so easy to rationalize yourself out of wearing something modest. Like it's hot outside.
The "it's hot outside" that's just an excuse that people are making up to make themselves feel better for the way that they're dressing.
You are putting men in a situation of temptation, and if they fall, you will have some responsibility for that.
Women, they do have that obligation to dress modestly because, like I said, it causes sin. And when you cause sin, that's a sin in itself. So I think to avoid sin for themselves and for others, they need to dress modestly.
Our Lord, in the Gospels, he says that if one causes another weak person, that is, he says little ones, if someone causes one of these little ones of mine to sin, it would be better that that person had never been born, or if a millstone had been tied about his neck and he cast into the depths of the sea.
You have to follow the church's exact guidelines. It has to be to the knee, and their sleeves have to be covered, and it can't be a low-cut top. But I mean, it's just the fact that people would want to change the definition of modesty. They would stretch the truth, just so it's easier on themselves. It's just showing a laziness, and they don't want to have to change, and they're just trying to justify what they're doing is right when it actually is completely wrong.
During the pontificate of Pope Pius XI, he had the Holy See issue standards for modesty, but they weren't complete. They didn't go through every little aspect and every little detail and talk about all these situations. Well, what if, because you can't foresee the crazy outfits that people would come up with today. I'm sure that if we tried, we could come up with a crazy outfit that met these standards that were first put out by the Holy See and find a way to still be grossly immodest. What was your opinion when you first heard about it? Like, how did you first react, your instinct?
Well, my instinct was like, no, I don't want to listen to this. You know, because like society today is so, you know, it's so immodest. And when you grow up like that, like, and even if you're like, because my parents taught me modesty and, you know, but it's just like, you know, even going to Catholic school and just everything, like the mall, the movies, it's, no one cares about modesty and that's not important. So, I mean, when you grow up with that, it's like, well, no, I don't want to listen to that, like, because that's not how I grew up. Well, I know right away when, like, I heard the church's teachings, all I was asking was why. For some of the things that I didn't completely understand, like the bottoms reaching to your knees and even quarter-length shirts, even though I never really wore tank tops or spaghetti straps or anything, but I just wanted to know why. Because that's just the thing that gets me. I mean, everyone wants to know the reason behind it.
You know, girls are told, don't do this, don't do that. But, you know, don't all the time, but we're never told why. You know, why shouldn't we dress this way? Don't just tell us, well, don't wear, you know, short shorts or don't wear, you know, tight pants. Why? You know, why can't we? And that's what a lot of the times that's what is missing from talks to girls is, well, this is the reasons why you shouldn't be doing the things that you're doing.
People want to know why they need to, well, why do I need to believe that, you know? And if it's true, it should be able to be defended. So if immodesty is wrong and if certain uniforms are inappropriate, it should be able to be defended with why.
There are going to be men who are looking to sin. There are going to be men who want, you know, inappropriate things from you, who are going to be pushing, who are going to be harassing you. They're going to come no matter what, the way you dress, no matter what. They're just some bad men out there. And those men have their own problems to deal with. You don't have to do anything to help those guys out. They want evil, they're seeking it. But these minimum standards are going to help you not scandalize, not lead another person to sin who's your average Joe, who's really striving to be holy. People like me, people like my students, people like the church-going men, the good fathers who are taking their families to church. It's going to help them stay out of grave sin. And then even more so, it's going to help the adolescents who are having hormonal changes in their life. It's going to help those young students, those elementary school students who are learning how to form their morals and get their background. So this is what these standards are going to do. They're not our enemy. They are a help. So often we see the church as an enemy giving us these burdens and rules, but in reality, they're only saying it because it's true and it's for our own good. And so the standards are obvious if you think about them. No garment, no shorts, no skirt, no dress, male or female, should be shorter than the knees. That makes sense. If men find women's thighs attractive and people say, ooh, I like your legs, girl, well, you don't have to worry about that. Okay? Nothing shorter than the knees. And then the sleeves, minimum quarter length. And this minimum is not the ideal. This is just the minimum. And then the neck, it was originally voiced as 2 fingers breadths beneath the pit of the throat, but due to market conditions and due to the way people use language, it translates essentially to about 2 inches beneath the pit of the throat, which is actually a good bit. Like, you don't even see the pit of my throat in the shirt that I'm wearing. So, and that's it. Those are the standards put out originally. Obviously, we could always add to those if this is their intention to keep people from sin, and that'd be what? No tight-fitting clothing, no clothing that it might be 2 fingers breadths here, but it's so loose that when you lean over it, everybody can see down your shirt. No see-through clothing, no clothing that is meant to look like the color of your skin tone, or any transparent materials that are going to make men's curiosity be unnecessary, because clothing primarily is supposed to be to cover. So when we say marry like modesty and marry like clothing, that doesn't mean you have to dress like a first century Palestinian woman. You can dress with the same standards of modesty, but according to today's contemporary fashions within reason.
Unless you are in tune to the life of grace and understand God's presence in your life, you don't have a reason to be modest. Like, you would have no motivation